Welcome to Modern Mystic Messages. I'm Teresa, and we are back. I believe this is going to be the last installment for this evening. But yeah, when he said that, he didn't say the whole term because I know it may trigger some folks, but that's why I wanted to put for the divine on it because I know the term sleeper cell, the context in which it's normally used will trigger some stuff in the algorithm. But truthfully, we are the chosen ones. Remember when that scripture says, talk about using the simple things or the lowly things of the world? You don't even understand the cosmic plan and some of the stuff you've been through. But when I go back and look, like I said, all the way back from birth, not only can I understand how and why the parents that I chose to come here, I would have been selected for, the lessons that they had to teach, how and why and when they left. But I also was allowed to see that there was angelic direction and protection over me, even when the other not so good factions were out trying to trip me up still, that I still had some divine guidance and instruction. And even, like I said, some of the stuff that we want to blame the devil for ain't the devil. It's truthfully just the truth of living in Yahweh's world. Not to mention the fact that the Satan in the Bible is Yahweh. That's something else we're going to have to talk about because that is information that I was guided to. As someone that connects the dots, like I went through and looked at history, the wider span, the last 150 or so years, and the information is coming out. People don't understand. We look at the Bible, oh, and it's sacred and it's inspired of God, and it's the only thing that's for teach is good for teaching and reproving. All of that's in the book. Well, all the things is good for. That's lovely. But religion has convinced us that those are the only scriptures that are inspired of God and the only ones of real canonical value. They keep ignoring all of the information. When they went into that library at Nineveh and they got the Dead Sea Scrolls and all that other information. Those archaeological digs of that time frame that allowed them to put together the text that they come up with as the Bible canon, there was a whole wealth of other information that was found there too. And I've never been one that understood or could accept how and why the new kids on the block could come in and just change up the rules in midstream and decide that everything else that came before wasn't real or didn't have value. As a child, we're taught that Greek mythology, Roman mythology, the Vedic traditions, uh, the Sumerian text, the Akkadian text, the Mayan prophecies, and all the rest of that stuff. Oh, it's mythology. They put that term on it to make you think it's a fiction story. When truthfully, those people were way more concerned about writing down real historical events than what's going on here. Heaven help the folks that come and dig up what we got that's supposed to be our history and news now from the 19th and 20th centuries. They'll never find the truth about what happened for these 200 years in time because they've been deliberately skewing history however it suits them for effect for at least 2, 3, 400 years with not good intent. But back then, it appears that they were much more meticulous record keepers. Even when we look at the biblical text, even then, it wasn't 100%. And they started playing scriptural telephone or spiritual telephone with it in the translation since then. But the earlier translations were fairly consistent. And they were very wanting to know who begat whom and who did what and in what year they actually did it and who wrote over here. And it wasn't always just telling the winner story. Sometimes, like I said, they even told the hard stuff when God told the nation of Israel it was a stiff necked people and he washed his hands of them. That's in the book too, but nobody wants to believe that either. They manipulated all of that stuff for effect and tell you all of that's real and the only thing we should listen to. But all of those older texts are mythology. And I thought, what if it's not? What if it's just as valid as that other stuff? And truthfully, that's one of the things that I wanted to get into because so far, I haven't seen anything of those texts that negated the Bible, but they certainly give it a much more plausible context, a much more believable context. And truthfully, if what the Akkadian and Sumerian texts say are true, it gives us more of a way out, truthfully, than Yahweh ever wanted us to have or know about, if you're willing to see it in a different light. And that's what I wanted to talk about. We're definitely going to look into a lot of that because I've been going through the crumbling, if you will, for 6 years now. It's time for me to come out of the cave. And I had initially, because I mean, we all think about the lotus, getting it out the mud, having to get something from nothing. I definitely resonate with that. I do. The phoenix rising from the ashes. Lord knows I resonate with that because life done burnt it down for me several times. But more importantly, one of the earliest analogies or comparisons, if you will, that I had early in my spiritual journey, if you will, is that of the butterfly, the caterpillar entering the chrysalis and coming out the butterfly. And I had somebody that mentioned that the other day, and she was thinking, like, can you imagine what it even, I mean, even what the caterpillar thinks about, or what's that whole process? Because genuinely, their whole body breaks down. They become like a goo and are rebirthed into something that looks completely different. Complete metamorphosis, totally unrecognizable from what it was before. Unless some of them, some butterflies will still have a marking or a spot from the original breed of caterpillar, but generally speaking, the butterfly that's rebirthed out of that chrysalis looks nothing like the caterpillar it entered as. And that's kind of sort of what's happening for me. And if you've resonated and are still watching this, I know it's kind of sort of what's happening for you too. You're a sleeper cell of the divine too, because that's who I'm being called to reach out to. That's the intention I set when I said I wanted to draw in soul family, but I didn't understand how much of our stories were going to resonate until I got started being led to other readers whose stories I was like, oh my goodness, that's my story. I resonate a lot with it because it's a common theme as to what's being, some of those that are being activated into service at this time. We've gone through similar things. We've had similar revelations or recognitions or what have you. We've got a lot more in common than we know. And for those who aren't sure that they are that yet, I'm here to try to help them find some relevance, if you will, so that they can answer some of the questions that they had. So they may not have to deliberate over it as long as I did. It's taken me to 56 years to figure this out. And they said I'm smarter than the average bear. So it's not that I'm thinking, oh, how could people not know this? I ain't gonna lie, in my neurodivergent dysfunction, I used to think that, well, if I could see this, why couldn't somebody else? But then I had to be taken back through how many layers of stuff I didn't see, even though I was looking at it intently. And the vast majority of people are not put in a life circumstance where they are afforded for almost 5 years of virtual solitude without having to bear the responsibilities of the world and taking care of themselves and keeping a roof overhead and all of those things. Very few people are afforded that luxury. And I took full advantage, well, as full of advantage of it as I could in the space of my healing. But I understand that that's something that everybody doesn't get. So the things that I learned as a result of being able to take that downtime, I absolutely want to share, because I know if I hadn't taken that downtime, I wouldn't have ever been able to get quiet enough to hear that information, to be led to that particular book, or to follow my intuition to watch that particular video. I wouldn't have had time to watch that video or read that book or go, none of that stuff. But since I did, it's my honor, obligation, yes, but it is my honor to be able to share that information for any and all who will hear. And I certainly hope that you'll continue to join us as we embark on this trip. I had mentioned it before. I do have a WhatsApp group. It is small at this time, so there's still room for plenty of folks to join if they would, because we are going to start getting into some of the other information. Of course, I will still continue to give channel messages and tarot and oracle card messages for the collective, because I actually enjoy that, and it's something that, I get encouragement from it too. But yeah, that pretty much is my story up to this point, and some of the ways in which I feel like I'm uniquely suited to do what I am about to do, and why I'm doing it, because truthfully, um, I have to journal this. I have to. There's something else too that I do want to talk about briefly, and I promise that's going to probably be the last installment for the night, because yesterday was also the beginning of my well, I'm in an initiation period overall, but for me, part of the initiation is a fast, and I want to talk about that a little bit. So I'll be back in just a few. Love you, fam.